Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about God's protection. And so I just want to get into the topic of when God redirects us, right? It's usually not when we expect him to. God's protection can feel a lot like rejection, right? It can feel like we're not on the right path anymore. It can feel like God's holding out on us. What is it that he has for me? Because it feels like when I am going a certain way and I think I have it all figured out, then God redirects me. And I know a lot of you have talked about this happening in your lives, and it's hard to understand God's will, honestly, for our lives. We can't know everything. Sometimes he'll reveal things to us, but not fully always. And you'll just never know when God will redirect you. But I do know that he does prepare us for that. If we're unaware, if we're not in prayer, we won't always see it coming. And sometimes, it's a total surprise, and it could just be God testing you. Also, there are so many reasons of things that we don't know why God does the way he does, but just know that he has a perfect plan for your life. He has a will for your life, right? And so when you don't get that job that you wanted, when you don't get that apartment that you wanted, when you don't get into that college that you wanted or that program that you wanted, when you don't end up with a person that you wanted, when you don't end up moving to the place that you wanted, there's so many things that we feel like, well, maybe something feels like it got taken away from you, right? Maybe your joy in a certain area of your life, maybe it's a hobby that you've relied on for so long and now it's gone. And we can't really understand why, God, did you take this away from me? I was so used to this. I was so comfortable with it. I'm actually getting good at it now. And now there's this whole redirection in my life where I'm doing something I never thought I'd be doing, right? And God, when he has a plan for your life, he's not going to allow you to stray too far away from the path. And if he sees you going down a path that isn't part of his perfect plan, he's going to redirect you. And yes, it'll feel jarring sometimes, and it'll go against what our flesh wants or what our human mind can fathom, because we want what we want, because we're naturally selfish creatures, and we get really comfortable easily with the plan we thought God had for us or what we thought we wanted. And so it might even be a wrestle of, I actually really want this thing, but God has something else for me. And so when you're following God, you definitely want to align with what he wants for you, but it can be hard. There can be a disconnect there, and it might take a while for you to fully align with God's plan for your life, especially when you got so attached to that plan that you thought was going to happen, that you thought was going to work out, that you worked so hard on, that you've grown to love, that you've attached yourself to, that idea, right? But God is not a God of comfort. He calls us to deny ourselves every single day and pick up our cross, right? There are things that are just going to come our way that are going to intervene in our lives. They're going to interrupt our lives. It's going to take us into a whole new direction, Life isn't perfect. Life isn't going to go the way you thought it would, but life is better than you think it is. And the way God does things, sometimes when there's suffering in the world, right? God is not responsible for the suffering in the world, because we live in a fallen world, right? When sin entered the world, that's when all of that happened. So we are not to blame God for all the bad things that happens, but God desires to build our faith, right? If we knew exactly what was going to happen every second of the day, every day of the year, why would we need God? Why would we need to rely on God? Many times in our lives, when we go through trials, that is when we are refined, okay? That is when we go through the furnace. That is when we grow in our strength and our perseverance and our reliance on God. That's when we realize, oh my gosh, I'm actually okay without that thing. This trial was really good to get me through the other side, because now I know I can go through another, unfortunately, LOL. Life is not perfect. You're going to go through many trials, but the point is, you do get stronger, and God does give you revelation through it. He does grow his intimacy with you through it. And that's because you're now going to him, right? You're now relying on him to get you through it. And so sometimes God will simply change the course of our path, because he notices that we're not relying on him anymore. And he needs to wake us up. He needs to shake it up to say, hey, actually, life isn't in your control. He wants a relationship with you. He's not going to let you go down the wrong path. He's not going to let you fall into pride and become prideful and boastful and self-sufficient, self-reliant. We think we don't need God as much because we start relying on those exterior things to make us happy, right? And so God might just shift the course of our path for a little bit to get us back on track, because why? He's our Father. So he loves us enough to do that. And yes, he knows it's going to cause pain in our lives. It's going to be inconvenient for us. Yeah, we're going to have to suffer, but suffering isn't bad, especially when it's suffering for Christ. It's not bad. He wants to mold you into the person he needs you to become so he can fulfill your destiny through you. He needs you to grow in character development, so then you can actually maintain the things he blesses you with. He can bless you with something amazing. If he were to do that at the wrong time, you'd have no way of taking care of it because you're not matured yet. There's maturing and refining that happens on our path of growth. And so when God takes something away from you, just know that it's actually a good thing. It might be that that thing isn't good for you, or that thing isn't good for you right now. And he wants to bless you with something amazing in the right timing because he knows what you need. And sometimes he'll allow us to have the things that aren't good for us to teach us a lesson. We'll go through the trials. We'll realize that, oh, humans are faulty. We can't rely on ourselves. When we start putting ourselves up on a pedestal thinking we know everything because we read books, and wanting to be our own gods is not the solution. It separates you from God. So God needs to take you through a path, whatever that may look like, to shape you and mold you into the person you need to become, because he cares so much about you. And that's where we might think, if we're not thinking spiritually, if we're not aligning with the heavenly things, we're going to think that God doesn't love us. We're going to think that he's not good to us, that he blesses everyone but us. But we're going through a character refinement. Nothing good in life comes easy. In Isaiah 41:10, it says, "Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." Psalm 138:7 says, "Though I walk in the midst of trouble, you preserve my life. You stretch out your hand against the anger of my foes. With your right hand, you save me." It's not always that we know that we're going down the wrong path, okay? Sometimes, yes, God, when we have a relationship with him, he'll warn us. He prepares us for things. But it's not always that we're alert or that we're seeing things with our spiritual eyes, that we're actually listening. And we're human beings, and we are flawed, and we will make mistakes. And so God sometimes has to just do it himself, and he'll remove something for your life. He might even harden your heart towards something for the sake of the will he has for your life, right? He can change our hearts. He's the one that does the cleaning. He's the one that prunes us. He's the one that redirects us. He's the one in charge of everything. He's sovereign. We can't see past what God sees, okay? He has all the revelation about your life. He has a plan for you, right? And so I know it can be hard. I know it can be discouraging when you feel like things aren't going your way, things aren't going the way you thought, but rejoice in all of that. Rejoice in your suffering. Praise the Lord through it. Worship him through the confusion. Worship him through the struggles. Worship him through the sadness. Worship him through all of it, because you know he has good plans for you. You know that there's something good on the other side. So in Proverbs 16:9, it says, "The heart of man plans his way, but the Lord establishes his steps." We can plan all we want, you guys, and that's good. It's good to have a schedule. It's good to know what you're up to, right? And having a vision for your life and doing the things. But the Lord knows what's best for you. We don't know what's best for us. We know what we want. We know what we desire. We know what we think we need, but the Lord knows what we need. He knows what we actually need. So the things he gives us, a lot of the times, are things that we wouldn't normally pick out ourselves. And that's why we need our God. That's why we need him, because he gives us what we need. Sometimes, yes, he'll show us directly why we need something, okay? But not always. And if we were to just live, yes, he gives us free will to live our lives and choose. But he's such a good God. He's such a good God. He's not going to let you go towards a path that isn't right for you without telling you, without warning you. Okay? So even if you get that good thing that you really wanted, you're going to feel a conviction about it. Eventually, you're going to have to go into prayer and understand why. Why is this thing not working out like I thought it would? Well, because God has greater plans for you. He has something different for you. If we were to listen to him and trust him, even though it doesn't make sense to our human mind or our human heart, it's not going to make sense. But we know that that's what God said. If we trust in that, one day we'll understand why he wanted to give us that thing, why he had us choose that thing. We don't always know what's best for us. Do not follow your heart, you guys. The heart is deceitful above all things. Do not follow your heart. Your heart wants what it wants when it wants. That is not God's best for you. We are not to just agree with everything that we want or do everything that we desire to do. Rely on God, trust in God. Know that he has a plan for you and it's working out already. The troubles that you go through, they're for a purpose. The pain that you feel is a part of your purpose. There are tons of mysteries in the kingdom, but just know that God is working it out for your good. There's a reason that you're noticing a bunch of things that might grieve you, right? Because with much knowledge comes much sorrow. But it's godly sorrow. It's what God feels. When we start noticing things, the more spiritually awake we become, guys, the more we notice the drastic polarization of the world. And yes, it can grieve us. And it will. When you notice this in your friends and family, the people around you, in yourself, when you're choosing better for yourself, when you choose the things of God, it feels like a breakup. Because your feelings are still attached to those things that you desperately desire. But we can't have the world and have God. Okay, you can't have one foot in, one foot out. And so when he starts to remove those things in your life, have the trust in him that that's happening for a reason. When you keep making plans and they keep getting canceled for some reason, when you're making plans with that person, they always get canceled. It's no coincidence, you guys. Get into prayer. Fast if you need to. Fasting is so good. You become more sensitive to the voice of God. But always know that there is a reason things are happening. And at the end of the day, he's protecting you because he loves you so much. He's not going to lead you astray. Keep following God. Keep trusting in God. Know that he's a good God. He is a good God. There's nothing bad about him. He is a good God. He has your best interest at heart. He knows what's good for you because he made you. So yeah, I'm just going to end the video here, or I could keep talking for another hour, but I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you'd like for me to cover. I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.